All right, I'm going to now show you how to take a drawing and define variables to help make it clearer what your code is doing. So I put some comments in this. I got draw face, draw eyes, and draw mouth. But still, generally, when you're reading the code, you see a line like this, CTX arc 150, 110, 20, 0, math.py times 2. It's not really at all obvious what those different numbers do. And to figure it out, you might just have to play with them. So if I change that to 30, I notice one of the eyeballs just got bigger. So I learned what it does experimentally, but ideally I would just know what that did when I read the code. So one of the nicest ways to make what we call self-documenting code is to define variables for key values in your code that will make it easier to understand what your code does. So in this case, this number 20 is changing, or I had it 10 a second ago, put it back to 20, it's changing how big the eyeball is. So I'm going to just define a variable. So we define a variable with the special keyword let. My editor turns it blue to show me it's special. And then we can choose a name we like. I'm going to use the style with an underscore between words here, eyeball underscore radius 20. Now, I like to make nice, long, clear variable names. And remember that when you're typing, your editor will autocomplete for you, and you can either hit tab to select or you can click with a mouse. So it's really no problem to have long variable names because your editor will help you type them. All right, so now those two are set to eyeball radius. Actually, it's not really the eyeball, is it? I'll show you another thing. There's a button. If I right-click, I can rename all occurrences. This is actually really the pupil. I'll go ahead and rename pupil radius. And then eye radius is these other numbers. That's the 40 here. So I'm going to set that to 40. And I'm going to set this to eye radius. And eye radius. I use tab completion there. All right, and to make sure my variables are actually doing something, I'm going to go ahead and change this to a different number and see if it changes. You'll notice both eyes use the eye radius, so they both changed. If I make the eyeball, the pupil bigger, that also works. Beautiful. All right, so we can do the same for all of the other variables we have in our code. In my case, I have a left eye x. I have a right eye x equals 350. And I have an eye y is equal to 100. And then this becomes left eye x, eye y, right eye x, eye y, left eye x, eye y, right eye x, eye y. All right, and I changed all of these. So now when I read this, I see something much clearer. Left eye x, eye y, pupil radius. Oops, I left the pupil radius giant. Let me change those back. Something closer to what they were originally. All right. You'll notice my eyes actually moved a little bit. I originally had the pupils not dead center. I had them slightly lower. So you could make a let pupil y equal and just put in a value like 110 is what I had. I'm going to define this in terms of IY plus pupil radius divided by 2, so that if the pupil grows, the eye will move accordingly. And this should become then pupil y and pupil y. And we'll notice that it's easy to see the pupil y should go with the pupil radius. So you could see right away that my variable names should in fact change as my what I'm drawing changes. So rather than needing a whole long comment here, I can understand right away what's happening. And if I go ahead and change my eye to be much bigger, the position should adjust now. And so it does. All right, beautiful. So that is an example of how to use variables to change up your drawing. I didn't do the mouth yet, but we could do that. You would want to do the same for your drawing. So any key numbers should just become named variables, and that's kind of a first step in making your code clearer. And as you might imagine, it's a first step to doing things like if we wanted to move the position of this eye over time to have the eye move, it would let us do that. All right.